our information side does programs that have to do with information, which is partly what we're doing here. We want to give information to the public that has to do with health, and we have an expert and a survivor to be able to guide us, and also our prominent journalist Kainga Okwemba to guide us through the program. So the Goethe Institute is a German cultural center, and as you can see on our signage, we are all about three things: Sprache, Kultur und Deutschland. I'm not going to make a joke about speaking German. There are jokes going around about speaking German this week. I will not feed into that joke, but Sprache means language, so we do teach German language. Kultur has to do with culture. We do lots of cultural programs. This is also part of culture, what we are doing today. Deutschland stands for Germany. We are an information center that also gives information about Germany. So anyone who needs to know about Germany and opportunities that are there and anything that they are planning to do in Germany and they are not sure where to start, the Goethe Institute is always a good place to start. So you are welcome to our program, and we have the executive chambers of release to this side. We have emergency exit doors, which I trust we shall not need today. And in case you need any kind of help, I'm not alone. We have a team in-house. My colleague Lillian Mumani is here. In case you need any kind of help or you have a question, you can consult her. And of course, our wonderful technical team with Eric Otai at the back. So thank you very much. I will hand over to Hainga.
My guest today is a leading oncologist, Dr. Catherine Nyongesa. She trained at the University of Nairobi and at the University of Witwatersrand in South Africa. Initially, when she started as a medical student, she actually wanted to study pediatric, but eventually she found herself doing studies to manage cancer patients. So she'll be telling us why did she not pursue that course, just treating children. But Dr. Catherine Nyongesa has such an amazing story. Her personal story is also just a story of inspiration. She was born to teenage parents, but she still went ahead to become the doctor that we have today. Dr. Catherine Nyongesa, welcome to In Conversation.
Thank you so much for your kind introduction. I feel honored for being given this opportunity by KBC to be part of this discussion.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. And joining us on the program also is a very brave Kenyan woman, Nancy Award. She's actually a cancer survivor. Nancy, welcome onto the program.
Thank you very much for welcoming me here. It's a good opportunity to be with you today. Thank you.
Great. Now, this is a very special program because it's a program that is actually being done outside of our studios from Broadcasting House. It's a program that is coming to you live from the German Cultural Center or the Goethe Institute with a live audience participation. What it means is that it's not just Hainga talking to Dr. Catherine Nyongesa and that brave Kenyan woman, Nancy Award. It's a program that has the participation of a live audience. So in the course of the program, you'll actually be hearing Kenyans engage with Dr. Catherine Nyongesa and Nancy. I start with Dr. Catherine Nyongesa. Daktari, I actually started by saying that you are born to a teenage parent. Okay?
Yes.
How was it like? If you could just very briefly share your story to this audience to know where you came from to become the leading oncologist that we have today. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I was born in a small village called Ebosio in Bungoma County. At that time, my mother was 13 years old. She was in class 5. And my dad had just joined Form 2 in secondary school. And they happened to to get me. So I thank God because they struggled through. They had to because of me, they had to get married. There was a push from their parents. And because of that, my mom actually dropped out of school. And the only thing she knew how to write one day was, it's a bird, it's called Ngoli. So that's the only thing she knew how to write out of class 5, and she never continued with her education. My dad continued with his education until Form 4. He was a very bright guy, and he got Division 1 in Form 4 those days. Then he had to drop out of school because now responsibilities switched in. Was out for some time. Then he got a job to work in a bank, Standard Chartered Bank, for some time. Then after about 17 years of being out of school, at that time I was going to join university. He also decided to go back to school and to do public health. I mean, he felt like, okay, this kid of mine, she's going to come from behind and beat me in school, in education. He said, no, he had to do something. And the rest was history. I'm the firstborn in a family of 10 children. Yeah. And in the family, we have different professionals. I thank God we have engineers, we have 2 doctors, we have a nurse, we have a journalist, we have a DJ, drivers, and some are cleaners working elsewhere. So it is actually a mix. And struggling with those teenage parents to where I am, I think it's through the grace of God and hard work. I pride myself that I tried to work hard, and there was a lot of push even from my siblings. They wanted to know what I was doing.
Great, Dr. Catherine Nyongesa there. So, Doc, so you actually, I was actually looking at the biography that is out there about you. You are such a bright student also, maybe like your father. You are an A student. You are the best student at all levels. Those days we used to have all levels, and then you are the best student in your school again at the A levels, and then eventually you joined the University of Nairobi to study medicine.
Yes.
Then you had wanted to become a pediatrician.
Yes.
Why wouldn't you pursue that course?
Yeah, when you're young, you have a chance of changing career. What you say you want to become, sometimes you don't end up with that career. So when I was in University of Nairobi undertaking the training course in medical school, my sister got cancer. My second follower. So because of her, I struggled a lot with her trying to get cancer specialist, and I was told actually they are none. So I said, especially on the side of women, there were no specialists. So I changed my mind after graduating just to do oncology, and I had an opportunity of getting a sponsorship by the International Atomic Energy Agency, and I went to University of Witwatersrand in South Africa. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what was your dissertation about when you went to the University of Wits?
Actually, I was studying about giving chemotherapy in cervical cancer. Mm-hmm. Cervical cancer is one of the leading cancers in women, actually the second most common in Kenya. So I did that study in cervical cancer.
Great. So let's now begin with the definitions we describe. What is cancer? If you could just very briefly for our audience, I want you to describe what is cancer and how come that it's become very common today in Kenya.
Cancer is an abnormal proliferation of cells in our body to form either a growth or spread into blood, and this leads to destruction of the body. Cancer is a global problem. It's just not only Kenya. Actually, developed and developing countries are grappling with the disease. In Kenya, cancer is the third leading cause of death after infectious diseases and cardiovascular diseases. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, there are so many cancers. this the cervical cancer, for example, that one would actually just affect the woman. There's the breast cancer, and then there's the cancer for the children, the teenagers. They will suffer from leukemia, maybe eye cancer or kidney cancer. But again, reading some biographies about you specialized in this clinical oncology, but also doing a lot of research on cervical cancer.
Yes.
But we know that among the cancers that affect women most is actually breast cancer.
Breast cancer is the top. Followed by cervical cancer. And among cancers causing death in our women, actually cervical cancer is leading, and these are preventable disease. Yeah.
And you said, I don't know if the figures have changed, but the last time when you came to KBC to discuss cancer, you actually said that we have new infections, about 47,000 every year. And out of those 47,000, about 32 would actually end up succumbing to cancer.
Yes.
Is the status still the same?
Still the same. We're still waiting for new updates, but as far as I'm concerned, those are the current statistics that are applying.
So, we've just spoken about the cancer that affects women. Maybe if we could just talk about the cancer that affects other people and what are the causes, maybe if there are any measures that people are supposed to be undertaking. Of course, I know for the young girls, they are saying that there's a vaccine that is very controversial. We'll talk about that, the HPV vaccine. But so why is cancer so common today in the country? Is it a lifestyle disease? Is it hereditary? Or why is cancer affecting our people?
So cancer is quite common in Kenya, but as I said, it's not just a Kenyan problem, it's a global problem. And there are many things that people think could be contributing to the rise in cases of cancer. Number one is just being aware. There's a lot of awareness in the community. In the past, people thought it could be witchcraft, so they had cancers, but they didn't know. But now with awareness, people are actually able to go to hospital with signs and symptoms of cancer. So the pickup rate is higher. The second thing is that education. Doctors are able to detect. There are facilities which have improved to detect cancer. Another one is the lifestyle we live, like use of tobacco, alcohol. Other causes could be infections, like for cervical cancer we get the human papillomavirus, liver cancer we have the hepatitis B virus. Use of a lot of fat in the diet, sedentary lifestyle. We hardly walk nowadays. It's not like in the past when people used to walk a lot. Now, a short distance, you want boda, or you want an Uber. And then other things include industrial pollution and others, the causes are not known. Really, you cannot say this is the cause of cancer. And 60% of the cancers, no one can identify the cause. You may be leading the best lifestyle, you don't smoke, you don't drink, and you can get it. Even children who are very innocent, they also do get cancer. 60% of the cancers in our country are being reported in women, and 40% or about there in men. We have very few cases of cancer in children.
So why that disparity that we have so many women suffering from cancer as compared to men?
It could be true that it's commoner in women, but also the health-seeking behavior for women is much better. Women are used to taking their kids to hospital for clinic. They go to hospitals when they are expectant. So they always interact with the doctors and they have a better health-seeking behavior. Our men have a poor health-seeking behavior, and most of the time maybe the cancer is not detected in time. Also, there's another factor that contributes to cancer cases. They say we are in an aging population. Long time the people could live for about 50, 60 years, but now people are living longer. And as people live longer, then they live long enough to get cancer.
So, cervical cancer, at least that one, you say that that is actually caused by a virus, a human papilloma virus that causes cervical cancer. But let me just zero in, because I can see in the audience here, we also have so many women, but we also have men. I can see Smita, Tony is actually just walked in, the writer there. Yeah, so these are the cancers. For example, if you talk of throat cancer or breast cancer, are there known causes of these kinds of cancer? Like you doctors, you've actually done research and said that, okay, cervical cancer is actually caused by this human papilloma virus. What about these other cancers, whether it is prostate cancer, whether it is liver cancer or throat cancer or breast cancer? What are the causes? Because sometimes my very innocent understanding is that sometimes you'd actually want to know the genesis before you can now begin to tackle the problem, the origin, how it comes about.
So most of the cancers, the cause is not known, unfortunately. But a few, we have what we call identifiable risk factors. A risk factor puts you at a higher chance of getting cancer. And there are times that they are multifactorial. It's just not one factor. You may be a smoker, you don't get cancer. Another one who smokes gets cancer. So there are other things that contribute, or they work hand in hand. Having said that, we maybe look at breast cancer. The commonest risk factor, number one, is having a breast. So whether you're a man or a woman, you can get it if you have a breast. Then the other one is being a woman. Women get more. Actually, 99% of the cancers occur in women of the breast, and only 1% occur in men. Another risk factor is getting your first baby when you're more than 30 years old. Puts you at a high risk of breast cancer. Having family history, like your mother, your aunt had breast cancer, it is a risk factor. Growing older, as women, as we grow older, the chance of getting breast cancer is much higher. Having few or no children at all puts women at risk of breast cancer. Lack of breastfeeding, prolonged use of contraception, like oral contraceptives. Then we move to...
No, I want to hold you on to that. That you say that getting a child when you are older, maybe in your 30s, you are at the risk of getting cancer. And then you also say that if you have few children, you also are predisposed to breast cancer, or not having children at all. Why is that so?
So it's more of it's a multifactorial, but we think it's more of hormonal exposure. Like having children and breastfeeding protects the mother, because there are some hormonal changes that come with it, which are protective. And when you don't have children at all, or you get children when you're a bit older, then you lose that protection.
And you say that breast cancer is not just a disease that is common among women. There could be very few men who would actually, be breast cancer patients. But then you say it's because just the fact that you have a breast, then you are predisposed to getting breast cancer. Why is that so? Again, why should that the human physiology be a problem again in that way? So it's a very, yes.
Yeah, men are lucky. They have a breast, yes. They can get breast cancer, but the breast tissue is little. So it puts them at a lower chance of getting breast cancer. And then they don't go through a lot of hormonal changes that women go through. Women will go through puberty, will go through childbearing. There are a lot of things that happen there until you reach menopause. Your breast is exposed to a lot of trauma, unlike men. But as I said, men can still get cancer, breast cancer, and as you grow older, then the chances also rises.
So you can actually now move on to the other cancers. What are the causes?
So we'll just look at the common ones, because there are more than 100 types of cancers, and we can't go through all of them. In women, the commonest is breast cancer. So what are the risk factors? I've already talked about. We follow cervical cancer, 99.9% is caused by the human papillomavirus. There's a small percentage which it just comes. Now this human papillomavirus is sexually transmitted. Once you become sexually active, whether you are a girl, and in our country most girls become sexually active from the age of about 13. This virus, fortunately most girls and women will clear it off their bodies by the time they reach age 30. Only a few, the virus will persist in the cervix and keep irritating the cervix, and then it can form cancer. The good news is that our government has rolled out the human papilloma vaccination, and this vaccine is given to girls who are aged 10 to give them immunity to protect them against the human papilloma virus. So even if they become sexually active, they already have some immunity. So this vaccine can be given to even girls older than 10 years. But at the moment the government is only able to support the 10-year-olds, but older girls can get it, maybe at their own cost. And then cervical cancer can be picked early through screening. So women who are more than 25 years old and they are sexually active, it is recommended they go for regular screening. In case it's picked up in pre-cancer phase, then it can be managed. You'll be surprised this virus can stay in your body for 10 to 15 years, even 20 years before it can manifest as cancer. So there's an opportunity in those 10 to 15 years to pick it up and manage before it goes to cancer stage. If you have HIV and AIDS, the immunity drops, and this you can get a co-infection with the human papillomavirus. Another risk factor is having many children now. You see, when you have few, you are at risk of breast cancer. When you have many now, cervical cancer is a problem. And then STDs, if you have persistent STDs and you don't seek treatment, especially chlamydia, then it can predispose you to cervical cancer. Now we move to the commonest in men. We have prostate cancer. The biggest risk factor is age. Actually, prostate cancer is a disease of the aging population. So older men, if you are 50 years, the chance of getting prostate cancer is like 50%. If you are 100 years, most of the time you'll be having prostate cancer. The good news is that most prostate cancers are silent and they don't need treatment, but a few may need treatment. So one has to discuss with the doctor on what needs to be done. Another risk for prostate cancer is the family history. If your father or your grandfather had prostate cancer, or your brother, then the risk is higher. Then we'll move to...
I want to hold you just a little bit there. You say you actually associate prostate cancer with age.
Yes.
Okay? Why is that so again?
So when men live long, the prostate, there's some trauma that the prostate, there are some changes that the prostate undergoes, and the chance of it being cancerous increases with age. Yeah. So we go to throat cancer, which is also common in men. One of them is esophagus and other throat cancers. The biggest risk is use of tobacco and alcohol. They actually work together to increase the risk of the throat cancer. Then tobacco, whether you chew or you smoke, it's a risk factor. We come to children. The commonest cancers include leukemia. Really, the cause could be genetic or unknown. Eye cancers, we call it retinoblastoma. It runs in the family. There's some gene that children inherit can cause this cancer. And then in general, we have liver cancer. This more commonly affects adults, and it's caused by the hepatitis B virus, which it's a virus which can be prevented through immunization.
Great, if you are just tuning in, this is In Conversation on KBC English Service, and I'm your host, Nyongesa. My guest today, Dr. Nyongesa, one of the leading oncologists in the country. She's actually here at the Goethe Institute where this program is coming to you from. And we have a live audience. Very shortly you'll actually be hearing Kenyans engage with Dr. Catherine Nyongesa. And also joining us on the program is a very brave Kenyan woman, Nancy Award. She's a cancer survivor. Let me just appreciate the audience. You guys, you are great. I can see it's a mix of people. I can see the people, human rights activists. I can see Patrick Amodo there. I can see the writer Tony Machama. My colleague Sebilo Didi from KBC English Service, the head of KBC English Service, is here. My colleague Geoffrey Mungai is here, and my other colleagues also, Camila and Sharon. You guys are fantastic. Can you clap for KBC? Great.
I'm Nancy Awol. I was born in Nyanza. I'm the firstborn of the family. We were about 7. The 4 have died. Now we've remained with the 3. Is that okay? So my journey of cancer, it started in 2015 when I had a lump in the right breast. So when I had a lump, I first ignored. I thought that it was just normal swelling. So it took about 2 to 3 months. Then I started feeling as if there is a sharp pain. Then I decided to go to the hospital. So when I went to the hospital, the first thing, they wrote for me some tests to go and do in German hospital. So the tests were done. They first started with there's something they, in that, the swelling, there's something they inject there, then they remove the fluids. That one, it was taken to the laboratory, but it was negative. Then they sent me for mammogram. So the mammogram was also negative. So the swelling was still continuing and it was very big. So the doctor told me to go for biopsy. So the biopsy was done. So the biopsy, they remove it's called what? Yeah, there's something they remove. Yeah, that's a sample in that lump. Then they take it to the laboratory. So that was in Kenyatta. So when I went to Kenyatta, they took that. Then it was taken to the laboratory. After 2 weeks, I got my results. So the doctor told me that I was it was malignant. So when I was told, it was hell. I thought that I was dying the next day, even that minute. So when I was in Kenyatta, but that time, the problem is that they didn't prepare me. So when the doctor came, so we were about 6 people who their results were positive. So they took us to another room. They told us, you wait for the doctor to come and talk to you. So the others went. That time we were carrying our results. So a layman with us, we didn't know what was written there. Yes. You just see it and you don't know. But I thought there was something. Even if you don't know how to read, at least you just see the remarks. So I was waiting for the doctor to tell me. So when the doctor came, he just told me, you have cancer, just go and book for the surgery. So I thought that I was dreaming. I asked, I have what? Yeah, yeah, you have cancer. So come on such and such a day to go and book for the surgery. So that time, what I felt, I first cried. Yeah. Because I knew that cancer, if you are got with cancer, you're just going to die. There's no any hope. So I cried, I called my husband and I told him, he told me it's okay, you'll get the treatment, but there's no problem, that stage is still early, you can be treated. So he came for me in Kenyatta, so then he took me. The cancer is so aggressive, so if we have money, we have to look for another alternative. So my husband decided that we go to another hospital if we can get another doctor. So that's where we went to Dr. Nyongesa's place, Texas Cancer Center.
Great, we'll come to that. She's such a brave woman. Can we clap for her? Great. I would actually want us to just take an interlude. You guys, I know you have questions, isn't it? From where we've actually gotten to, I know you have questions. So I want you to make them as brief and brutal, okay? Because this thing is actually being, we are recording it and we are transmitting it as KBC. So just go straight to the point and know that everybody who is here is actually interested, is a Kenyan. They also want to also make their contribution. But just before Lillian, I can see Lillian is actually standing with the mic. Before Lillian passes the mic around, there's a colleague of mine, a very brilliant Kenyan journalist and poet, Jacob Okech. He has a poem on cancer.
My name is Jacob. I'm a journalist. I'm a poet. I have a poem here, which is very brief. It's about 2 stanzas.
What is the title of the poem?
It's titled, Why Me? It is painful. It is horrible. It is debilitating. But here I am, with nowhere to go, nowhere to run. Why can't this pain stop? Why me? What did I do to deserve this pain? Please forgive me, or punish me up there, not here. I want out.
Thank you, Jacob, for that poem. Lillian, you can actually pass the mic. If you have any question,
My name is Patrick Kamodo. I'm a human rights defender. The question goes to you, doctor. 2 questions. First one, do we have traditional way of addressing some of the cancers, maybe breast cancer? Do we have like best practices where traditional methods have been used to curb such cancer? Secondly, is there a possibility that male, when you do sexual with a woman, there's a possibility male are carrying cancer and infecting women through cervical cancer? Thank you.
Evening, my name is Edward Kusawa. I'm a senior lecturer in high school in Lydia at some point. This doctor, you said that prostate cancer is a silent cancer. I wanted you to elaborate a little bit why prostate cancer is silent. What does it do? Because then these are the cancers from what we are hearing cause pain. Thank you.
The panel. I'm Ken Miao, and I want to ask Dr. Nyongesa, okay, considering the person who discovered what causes cancer, Otto Warburg of Germany in 1931, he discovered that that cancer cells cannot survive in an environment that is alkaline and has oxygen, much oxygen. So, what do you think? Do you think if you take alkaline substance like, let's say, fruits or some plants or chlorophyll, aloe vera, do you think they would neutralize the system such that in such a way that you can't get cancer or something?
Fantastic.
That gentleman is a future witch doctor. I want to thank you're very brave, Nancy, and we are totally with you in this battle. And it's so nice that you look so cheerful, for us. It gives everybody hope. Everyone will ask about cancer, but since Kainga's topics are always very contemporary, I want to ask Dr. Nyongesa something that is in everyone's mind. Everyone else will ask about cancer, but I want to ask just medically about this coronavirus. To today I was looking at the map. I was watching the BBC just before I came here. And then, it hasn't touched Africa except Egypt. They are put red marks. And I'm very terrified that, we'll just see it turn red somewhere in sub-Saharan Africa. Then I don't know if we'll be seeing Wakinalizia with the masks, or a pandemic. Because we always say in Africa we can't control anything. Thanks to our governments and so on. So if coronavirus comes into sub-Saharan Africa, is that the end of 40% of us?
Okay.
Student at KU, and I have a question. I picked something. You said that if you are 25 years old, you can go for screening. Does that mean that if you are 25 years and below, you cannot get screening for cervical cancer?
We'll start with the last one about cervical cancer screening. Actually, we do have national cancer screening guidelines. They are online. The best age even to go for screening is about 30 years old. Because below 30 or below 25, you'll pick a lot of human papilloma virus, but your body is going to take care of it. In fact, 80% your body will take care of it. So why bother screening when we do nothing about it and your body is going to fight it off? So that's why we are not screening. We're not encouraging screening for cervical cancer. But in case one started sexual debut very early in age, you never know then, or you have symptoms, then it's good to go for a checkup. But for mass screening, it is not recommended. About the coronavirus, I'm not an expert, but coronavirus is like a flu. It's passed in the air. So God forbid, if it comes to Africa, we'll just have to deal with it. Like recently I was traveling, I passed Dubai. In the airport, many people have masks. People are just walking around with masks. So in case it comes, then our medical professionals are ready. And there are international guidelines on how to deal with the spread of the virus. And at Kenyatta National Hospital, we have actually an isolation ward for this kind of illnesses. But we're just hoping it shouldn't come to Africa, but you never know about tomorrow. Then the gentleman asked about that cancer cannot survive in oxygen and an alkaline solution. Okay, for us to recommend neutralizing medicine for cancer, then you must have a study that has been done on many people and shown to work. But at the moment, in Kenya, we are using the International Cancer Treatment Guidelines, the ones being adopted by the Americans, the Europeans. In fact, we follow the the NCI, which is American. We also follow the ESMO guidelines, which are European. And world over, many people are following that. And this is based on research, which has gone through different phases, this phase 1, phase 2, until phase 3 studies. And with meta-analysis to show that actually this kind of treatment works, and that is what we are applying to our patients. One asked about whether cancer, I think he meant about cervical cancer, can be transmitted from the man to the woman. Actually, cancer in general is a non-communicable disease. What happens is maybe during intercourse, if you have the virus, the HPV virus, you'll transmit to the woman. Most of the time, the men wash off this virus, they fight it, and even women fight it off. But it can stay in the woman's body for 10 to 15, even 20 years before it causes symptoms. So women at the moment who are getting cervical cancer, they actually didn't get that virus from their husbands. They got them much earlier, 10, 15 years, 20 years ago, before they are presenting right now. But still, we encourage that people should have good sexual behavior to take care of your health, because you are at risk of getting sexually transmitted disease and even HIV, which is a sexually transmitted disease. And men also do get HPV-related cancers like penile cancer, and for those who are homosexuals, they get anal cancer because of the human papilloma virus. There was a question about traditional methods of treating cancer. I'm sure they are there, but we need also research. We have a body in the country called KEMRI, Kenya Medical Research Institute, and also universities are training doctors who can do research. So if you think you have a medicine, a traditional medicine that can treat cancer, then it has to go through research. And if it's proved that it can treat, that's when it can be adopted. For men, prostate cancer is a silent killer, but there are certain telltale signs and symptoms. We call them lower urinary tract symptoms. Unfortunately, these symptoms mimic infections. They include hesitancy. When you go to pass urine, you find you hesitate before the urine comes out. Pain on micturition, going to the toilet many times for short call. Sometimes you can even see blood in your urine, and the stream of urine can be very weak. You know, young boys, if you remember, they like competing in urinating. Okay, but as a man, as you grow older, you stop competing. True or false? Because your stream will be very weak. So those are some of the symptoms of prostate cancer. But even as men grow older, the prostate enlarge and they get a non-form of, not cancerous form, but we call it BPH. It's just a natural way of the prostate enlarging, but a few of them can be cancerous. So if you're a man over 50 years old and you choose to be screened, you will sit with your doctor and discuss about it. They will tell you what it entails to screen and even the treatment. And if we look at our national cancer treatment guidelines, they don't recommend mass screening for men, because some of these men, the prostate cancer in them is silent and it doesn't cause symptoms. They don't even come with those symptoms I've talked about. They're healthy, going about their business.
But can it be detected?
Yes, it can be detected early. If you go to the doctor and you want it, you are ready to the consequences, which include the treatment. You know, most of the men actually, they are sexually active, and the treatment will interfere with their sexual activity. They have reduced, because of the medication, they have reduced libido, and you just have to deal with a lot. So if the prostate cancer is not causing problems, even if it's detected, then the doctor you'll discuss with your doctor about treatment, whether you should treat or not. But if you are a man who is a bit older and you have symptoms, then it's good to go for the testing, because this prostate cancer can actually take away your life. So it's not something to ignore. So it's always good to sit down with your doctor, you discuss, and they'll tell you, okay, for this you need treatment, and for this you may just go under, we call surveillance, until a certain point. If it's worrying you, then the doctor will intervene.
Great. If you are just tuning in, this is In Conversation on KBC English Service, and I'm your host, Khainga Okwamba. My guest today, a leading oncologist, cancer specialist in the country, Dr. Catherine Nyongesa, the founder and director of Texas Cancer Center, a facility that has actually assisted many Kenyans. And you just heard the story there of a very brave Kenyan woman, Nancy Ward. My colleagues from KBC, from English Service, Sharon and Camilla, there are some questions that our listeners of KBC English Service had actually sent for us.
Hi, I'm Camilla from KBC English Service. So, Dr. Nyongesa, people on Twitter had some questions for you. And they were curious to know, why do most Kenyans prefer to get treatment in India instead of here in Kenya? Also, how expensive is it to get treatment from outside the country?
3, take the third one.
It is said that cancer is a lifestyle disease. What kind of lifestyle would you recommend for people to live in order to stay healthy?
Many people want to go to India for treatment. I'm sure as Kenyans, we all have a right to be treated where you wish to be treated, so long as you can afford it. Majority of our patients are not able to afford to go overseas for treatment, and there are facilities in the country that can handle that cancer cases, both in public and in private. Some people go to India maybe for not knowing that some of these services are available locally. And you go, if it's chemotherapy is available locally, surgery, we have good surgeons who can operate. Radiation therapy, we do have radiation therapy locally. But there are few, like 5 to 10% complex cancers that may need overseas treatment, and those ones we strongly encourage that they can go if the treatment is not available locally. Cancer treatment really varies in terms of the cost. It can just be like maybe 10,000 if it's surgery early stage and the treatment is done locally, to millions of shillings if the cancer is a bit advanced or it's complex or you need very many different specialized treatment. So I'll say really it is relative. It depends on where you go, the type of cancer, the stage, and the treatment that you will get. Early cancers, the treatment is much more simpler. Cancers that have spread, the treatment is more complex because you have to deal with the complications of the cancer and the treatment itself, and that is quite costly. In terms of lifestyle, we said the cause of cancer is really multifactorial. Lifestyle is just one of the risk factors, and this is use of tobacco, alcohol, and sedentary lifestyle. So we'll encourage people to exercise, reduce fat in their diet, avoid use of tobacco and alcohol. And if you wish to smoke, then don't smoke in front of children, in your house, even your wife. When a man smokes, then also the wife is a passive smoker, and they're at risk of getting cancer.
My name is Sharon Ramboy from KBC, and there is someone by the name Felix Munuhe. So he asked a question, what are the factors that favor prevalence of carcinogenic elements in our society? I don't know what he meant, but the factors that favor prevalence of carcinogenic elements. And the second person was Julius. Julius asked, what are the effects of chemotherapy and how safe is it for patients? Thank you. Then I have a personal question. You've said that old people, we have parents who are growing old, we have to accept. So you say the more they get older, the more the chances of getting cancer. Make me understand why. Yeah, thank you.
The question then goes to the doctor in regards to costing. Do we have a standard of cost when you are medicated with cancer? Do we have a standard of how much we are supposed to pay? Is it universal or doctors just get the amount of money? Secondly, is there a possibility the sugar we are using in this country is contaminated with cancer element? Lastly, is there a connection between cancer element with the aflatoxin which was supposed to be in maize? So these are the concerns people really like to know whether they are contributing to cancer. Thank you.
Super. Thank you, Gainga. I'd like to direct my question to Nancy Award, our brave guest on In Conversation. Nancy, tell us about your journey since treatment. How has it been for you? And are you free of cancer as we speak?
My journey with cancer, at first I went for surgery. The breast was removed. I don't have the right breast. But if you look, they're there, all of them. Can you notice I don't have? Yeah, there's a prosthesis that we put. We are being given by the doctor. So that we put, nobody knows. Because if you don't have that breast, you lose balance at times. So my journey, after the surgery was done. I took 3 weeks, then I started chemotherapy. The chemotherapy is a hell. It's not easy. When you had that chemotherapy, you vomit, headache, you get weak. Even at times, with me, my memory was not okay. the body turned black. I lost a lot of weight. There was no appetite. I was vomiting every time. And even you just get hunger. You don't know where the hunger is coming from. Even a small thing can make you feel as if you are dying. Even if somebody tells you something, you just say it's wrong. You just feel that he's saying because you have cancer or what. Then after the treatment, the treatment was about 1 year. After that, everything was not moving well. Because after the treatment, you just feel that your body is changed. Everything. You don't feel that taste. The hands were not working well. There's itch in the body. The hair was not there. Every part where the hair is, the hair was not there. And you know, as women, we like hair. So everywhere there was no hair, without shaving. So I stayed like that for almost 2 years. Then after that, I started recovering slowly with the medication and the diet. So I had to see the doctor to tell me about the diet and to continue with the medication. But anyway, if you follow the medication, and the cancer was detected early, so it was treated. Now I think I'm cancer-free. I think the doctor can say that. I don't think if I'm looking like a cancer patient. Do I look like one? No. So all the cancer patients after treatment, they should look like me. Wow. Yeah.
You proudly say that you are healthy, and we can actually see you are healthy.
Yeah, I'm very healthy. So I'm back to my life.
Great. Now, I'll actually just flip the question to the doctor. So, doc, when somebody actually says, or when you declare somebody who's actually gone through that medication, and then you say that they are cancer-free, does it mean that they stop completely to use any medication and then they can go back to their original lifestyle, or there are still certain medications that you are supposed to continue using to suppress if it could emerge again?
Cancers after treatment, you finish a course of your treatment and you go and follow up. So you don't need any maintenance medication. But there are some breast cancers, for example, which we have hormone receptor positive. And those ones, they go on maintenance treatment for about 5 to 10 years. For Nancy, she's in remission as we speak. And when we walked in, she told me she went back to do her work. She's a hairdresser. Yeah, so thank God for her. Yeah.
Great.
So I'll move on to the other questions about carcinogenic elements in the industry. Okay, carcinogens actually are with us everywhere. Okay, some you don't see them, others you are aware about them. As I said, cancer is caused by multiple factors, not just one factor. Even just the fact that we are alive, the fact that we are growing old, all those are risks for breast cancer, for cancer, any type of cancer. We have carcinogens like from the ozone layer, we have radiations coming through, so things you can't avoid. From the land, we have terrestrial radiation. You cannot avoid, you can't stop walking around. You understand? We have to till our land. Then carcinogens from the industry, because we need to develop our countries, and unfortunately, there's a price we pay. Things like use of tobacco, there are carcinogens in there. And like now, if you go to buy any tobacco packet, they've put big signs, smoking kills. So people know, but they choose to smoke. Use of alcohol. They say everything we do in life for leisure or pleasure, it's harmful. But do you stop going to leisure or do pleasure? It's not possible. So I would say most industries are now practicing safe waste management to reduce the amount of carcinogens in the environment. Infections which can be carcinogenic, for example, where we know we have vaccination. There are rollout of vaccines like HPV vaccination and hepatitis B vaccines. Other carcinogens, you are just told to try and limit exposure, like the tobacco and alcohol. And there are some carcinogenic things in the environment that we don't really know about, and the research is still going on. Even developed countries like America do not know. So why cancer is occurring more in the older people? I think on this world, as we grow older, we get interact with a lot of carcinogens. When you are young, you're just 1 year old, you haven't interacted a lot. But as we grow older, the carcinogens are everywhere. In fumes from motor vehicles, we get exposed, we travel more, we spend more with people maybe who use tobacco or alcohol, especially tobacco, we inhale the fumes. You get exposed to radiation, which is on the land, even inside within ourselves. As we sit like now, Nancy is radiating me, I'm radiating her. Hainga is radiating me, I'm radiating him. We have inborn radiation in our body. So there are things as we grow older, then all these factors come into play, and the chances of getting cancer is even higher. But cancer can catch a young person, an old person, a woman, a man, so it doesn't choose. But the chances are higher in older people. And when we look at our statistics, we find that in children, the cancer cases are just about 3,000. These are under 18s. But when you look, under 13s. But when you look at adults, we are counting over 47,000 new cancer cases. So those statistics speak for themselves. They were asked about cost. Is there any standard cost of cancer treatment? Unfortunately, there are more than 100 types of cancers, and each cancer has its own treatment. So there's no standard cost. And then cancer goes in stages, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. The more the stage, the more complex it is, that one may need chemotherapy, radiotherapy, surgery. When it's early stage, you only need, for example, surgery, but it depends on the type of cancer. So there's no standard treatment. But we have what we call the medical practitioners and dentist council, which have set guidelines on how doctors or hospitals should charge for specific procedures. And most hospitals, they abide by that. But it also depends on which hospital you want to go to. It's like a soda. If you go to the kiosk, you buy soda at less than 50 bob. But if you go to Hilton Hotel, the same soda you pay more, isn't it? So there are some add-ons that may cost more, especially depending on which hospital you go to. Cancer treatment also, it is a complex treatment because cancer itself is a complex disease. You'll involve, like Nancy, she told you she had to involve a pathologist who looked at her sample of the breast biopsy. Then she went to the surgeon who operated on her. From there, she had to go to the oncologist to get chemotherapy. So all those things, they add into cost because you attract a lot of professionals into your treatment. It's not like malaria. You go to the GP, they give you tablets and you are healed and you go home. Cancer is a little bit more complex and the cost it's also high. About sugar and cancer, I think it's too early to say. I don't have enough evidence to say that the sugar we take is contaminated with cancer-causing substances. Most of the sugars we consume is produced locally from the sugar cane. I'm actually a sugar cane farmer, so unless the imported ones, but now we need more information or more research on the same. In the maize, aflatoxins actually cause cancer, so our maize needs to be stored well. Even our cassava needs to be stored well, because in case you get those aflatoxins, they can cause cancer.
The treatment, she lost her hair, and then even, the the rigor of going through chemotherapy and all that, it just affects your lifestyle and many things that are happening. And just the other day, I was hosting a doctor who is actually a gyno, but she's a specialist on IVF, in vitro fertilization, and Dr. Sarita Sukija. And she was telling me that in fact, for women, those ones who are actually suffering from cancer, they can actually go and harvest their eggs, okay? And then they can go, the eggs are frozen somewhere in the laboratory, and then they can go through the treatment, and then after that, now if they want to have children, they can actually go and claim back their egg, and then they can have their children. That in itself is a confirmation that the treatment is, does affect, our systems. So what are the available treatments and which ones are the best, so that we don't need to go through all this suffering?
Okay, thank you. That one reminds me of a question somebody asked, whether chemotherapy is safe and what are the side effects. Chemotherapy is actually safe, and this is based on the research that has been done, and we look at the benefits if they outweigh the risk. So the benefits of chemotherapy most of the time outweigh the risk, but there are sometimes if we find the risk is too much, then the doctor will advise not to go to chemotherapy. The common side effects include nausea, vomiting, tiredness, hair loss, and even an effect on fertility. Women actually can go for their eggs to be harvested. If you are going to go through chemotherapy and your childbearing age and you haven't had the desired number of children you want, it's an option. And even just normal women, if you find maybe you want to space your family and you want to save your eggs, you can always save that. It's not just limited to those undergoing chemotherapy. Treatment of cancer is a multidisciplinary, it's more of a teamwork. Many doctors are involved, and the nurses, the counselors. So we have to discuss what is the best way option. So there's no best one type of treatment for cancer that is recommended. It comes after a discussion among the different disciplines. And the cancer treatment will depend whether you are treating the primary disease, or if it has spread, then you have to deal with the complications. Different treatment types include chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and surgery, hormonal therapy. And there's a lot of research going into what we call targeted therapy. And now, with the time, we get gene therapy, which is just specifically targeted to that type of cancer cell to prevent it from multiplying and spreading. Yeah.
Great, Dr. Catherine Nyongesa. I want you to be very brief. I'll take 3 more questions.
I am super excited, as Hainga would say. My name is Adeline Owaka. My first question goes to our brave guest. They didn't prepare me well. What did you mean by that? There's somewhere you say at Kenyatta they didn't prepare me well. And maybe that could be one of the reasons why so many people are running to India or something, I don't know. And then another question goes to Dr. Nyongesa here. Something about pap smear. I would like you to tell us something small about it. Most people look at it as something which is very uncomfortable. Personally, I would never even go for it. I feel it's very uncomfortable. And there's so many negative notions surrounding it. So maybe you could just tell us something about it. And maybe the last one, I don't know if it's safe for me to ask this question.
Ask.
Cancer has a way of coming back. You feel you are done with it, and then somehow along the way the doctor tells you, we've spotted some, it's like it's coming back again. So tell us something about it. Thank you.
Great, super. Move the mic.
My question goes to the doctor, and it is all about awareness. Our friend has talked about coronavirus, and when you hear something like that, we all run away. And also with cancer, the same. Many of us don't want to go for that screening because of the fear that maybe I'm going to be diagnosed with it. Like seriously, Nancy, when she was diagnosed with cancer, she was like, I'm dying. So what kind of awareness or how well are you informing we as Kenyans concerning it, so that we at least, when we go for the screening, we are not going to fear it?
Great.
Yeah, my name is Juma Chin. I have only one question for the doctor. So are all lumps cancerous? Can you have like a lump and it's not cancerous? Because as Nancy was saying, she's very awesome and brave. She said that 3 months she blooded, and then she felt pain, and then she went now to seek medication. What if maybe she actually had the lump and maybe she didn't feel pain and maybe she never went to seek medication? Would she still have cancer, maybe in the stage 4, or maybe it would have been cancerous?
Great. Can you take the mic?
My name is Rebellious Monk. I'm a musician. So, about cancer, I think the basic definition as I come to my question is that cancer is the lack of oxygen in any cell. And about its treatment, I think it's about alkalinity. So there's something we are missing here. We are having something we call Western medicine versus an African type of science, whereby we are dealing with the basic polarities and dualities, not the philosophies. So when we deal with the basic polarities and dualities in the body of a human being, you realize that alkalinity or acidity is what determines disease and health. That one is a basic. I can quote Dr. Otto Warburg.
Super. I want you. Yeah,
Dr. Otto Warburg said that no disease, whether HIV or cancer or any disease, can exist in an alkaline environment. So my question is this: what are your principles of medicine? Are they the Hippocratic principles of medicine that originated from Greece, or the Hippocratic principles of medicine, whereby we draw the line between alkalinity and acidity as the basis for medicine? That's my question.
Super.
I'm a student. My question goes to the doctor. What do you feel that we as citizens can do to be able to support the cancer patients, and especially making use of the power of technology to drive digital solutions towards solving the cancer problem?
Is stress and other psychological factors also, can they also trigger cancer? Because sometimes someone has gone through a stressful lifestyle, stressful factors, and then they end up with cancer, and then people say, she got stress, and it's stress that made her get cancer. Is that valid?
Super.
I'll start with the last one, stress and cancer. As I said, cancer causes are multifactorial, and one of them is really reduced immunity. So stress could contribute to deteriorating immunity, but there are other factors which will come to contribute. So it's just not stress alone. Most of the time stress will give you acidity and ulcers. Then the big question about alkaline and oxygen and cancer. You know, a cancerous cell is actually a normal cell, part of your body. Okay? So for strange reasons and due to many factors, it turns and starts multiplying uncontrollably and form a lump, or it can infiltrate the body tissues or go into the blood. So if cancer starts from a normal body tissue, it means for you to live as a human being, you need those special conditions for the cell to survive. If you look at our body, there are areas which are acidic, there are areas which are alkaline. So it is, and we need oxygen to survive. Without oxygen, we'll all be dead. You understand? So whatever you are saying it's more of arbitrary, but we'll need research. Like if it was really like you alkalinize the body, you deny the body oxygen, cancer will die, but will also die. So that is the big problem, and there's a lot of research. Probably in future somebody may isolate something in that alkaline and oxygen, what can best be done, and it's open for research, and we encourage the young people.
There's already a thesis on that. I can refer you.
It's okay.
Yes, which is okay. It's a thesis, but for us to adopt.
Just a moment. Just let the doctor let the doctor respond to your question, and I see she's actually responding to it effectively.
Yeah.
So just no. Just hold on first.
About awareness and people fear going for screening. So there are more than 100 types of cancer, and you cannot go for screening for all of them. So our government has put up what we call the National Cancer Screening Guidelines, and they actually recommend for screening for very few cancers, mass screening. For men, we screen for throat cancer, colon cancer, and for women, we screen only for breast and cervical cancer and colon, unless you have symptoms. For children, we create more awareness and just to create awareness about childhood cancer. So don't worry, if you don't have symptoms, you can just go for a regular medical checkup, but the doctor can only screen you for those specific cancers when there are indications for screening. In fact, what you should worry more about, in our country, the top leading causes of death are infection, number 1, and cardiovascular. Cancer is number 3. So take care of your infections, the pneumonias, coronavirus, HIV. Worry more about those ones, okay? Cancer is like number 3. It's advised not to ignore. If we do ignore it, it can continue growing, and from stage 1 it goes stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. So unfortunately you cannot hide cancer. It is better you come forward and you are checked. If it is there, you get early treatment. As citizens and use through digital forum, I'm sure even just whatever we are doing is a digital forum to reach the people, create awareness. You can do an app on what are the common symptoms of cervical cancer, breast cancer, for example. So there's a lot that the digital world can do right now in terms of creating awareness in cancer care. And then I think the guy said this about alkaline and oxygen. Whatever research is doing is at dissertation level. You know, as I told you, research for cancer goes through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, until even you have multiple analysis of this phase 3 trial. Once you have that pooled evidence, it shows overwhelming support that this is the best treatment, then you go for it. But just maybe one person doing a dissertation and claiming, we cannot roll that out to mass to treat many people with it. So there's a lot of research that is needed in that aspect. So I wouldn't recommend treating people with alkaline, denying them oxygen. Not at the moment. We are not yet there.
Great. I would actually, Doc, I'll come to you so that you can make your final remarks. I want our very brave sister there, Nancy Award, to actually make your final remarks on the program and maybe encourage those millions of Kenyans who are listening to the national broadcaster KBC English Service that you went through, that very trying moment and you emerged triumphant as a victor.
Okay. I would not like anybody to have cancer, but early detection can be treated. So as patients, all those who've gone through cancer, we always do the awareness to tell people how cancer is and the treatment. But whatever I want to say that you should go early, so that if it's detected early, we also give the doctors easy time to treat. But when it's late, it's not easy for the doctor to treat. So it's very hard, and it's also expensive. When it's early, the expenses is low.
Many women don't go for pap smears, but I encourage them to go for cervical cancer screening once you're above 30 years. And you don't do it like on a daily basis, once maybe every 2 to 3 years to 5 years, if you are a low-risk group. And if you don't want to have a pap smear, there are other non-invasive ways. There are actually special kits. The doctor can give it to you. You go home, take the sample yourself, and then drop it at the lab. And it's more expensive, but it's less intrusive to your privacy. At the end of the day, I think prevention is better than cure, and cervical cancer is one of the most preventable cancers, and we should not shy away from screening. Let the women go for screening, because early detection saves lives. And if one has cancer, it's not a death sentence. As Nancy has proved that there is hope after cancer, and there's life. You're still a mother, you're still a businesswoman, you're still a doctor, you still have responsibilities, whether you're a man or a woman, after cancer. So just be brave and pray to God and go for your treatment.
What I could do is to thank everybody for turning up and to thank our panel, Dr. Nyongesa. I mean, how this started was one time Dr. Nyongesa came for a morning show, and after the program, I think she was caught up in traffic, so she spent we spent like 30 minutes, but every minute on radio is valuable. Every minute that we spent here has been absolutely amazing. So anyway, after the 30 minutes, and I think we were speaking about cervical cancer, and the young girls who've been reading the messages from social media, I found them engaging Dr. Nyongesa and just asking her about cervical cancer and the vaccine. And I found that really, really interesting. And I said to Hanga that, rather than do this radio show where you're locked up in a small room that you call a studio, and cancer is such a massive, massive, concern, public health concern, why not bring it to a forum and invite a few people to ask questions about cancer so that we can make this radio show as participatory as possible. So it began as simply as that, just, about a month ago. And the doctor was, the awareness that you do, even the way she was dressed that day, it made it so easy for the young guys to engage with her. She was wearing, I think, like a short skirt, and she was wearing trainers, and if someone told you this is a doctor, I remember our boss passed there and I said, hey, come and say hi to Dr. Nyongesa. Oh, this is Dr. Nyongesa. She just looked like a young Chile, and that was so cool, because it broke those the barriers that the young girls had, and the engagement was really, really good. And that's how this idea for this show started, and we spoke the Guter Institute, who are such a wonderful, wonderful institution, and they just took it up, and they've lent us support, and they've given us nice notebooks and so on. So it's been such a wonderful collaborative effort, and thank you so much for representing the Guter in such a wonderful way, and thanks to the panel, and Nancy, you're such a wonderful, wonderful person. I remember last year when we were giving those breast prostheses, we did an awareness campaign in October of last year. We were giving out the breast prostheses, which had been donations from America and places like that. And I never ever thought that I would meet someone I didn't think they looked this wonderful, look at her, they look great. And so, so it's really, really great. And I think the more we speak about this, we create awareness and we demystify cancer, and people are able to go for testing, because I think that's key, Dr. Nyongesa, isn't it? Yeah. At what stage it is that you go for testing, then we'll be contributing in a really significant way towards the reduction of cancer cases, or at least getting people treated. So that's great, and thank you so much for the questions. Alkaline, oxygen, so they've been wonderful, wonderful questions, even though some people got a little animated, but we completely understand that. So thank you so much for participating and making this a wonderful conversation.